Aidan Collins already had problems when the night decided to add more. He was 12 years old, his backpack held money that was not his, and the sound behind him told him that the people who owned that money were no longer pretending to walk somewhere else. He did not run. Not yet. Running too early was how you confirmed fear, and fear invited attention. Aidan kept his pace steady, shoulders tight, eyes forward, pretending the scrape of shoes behind him belonged to someone else's life. The south side of Chicago did not reward imagination. It rewarded awareness. The day had started wrong and stayed that way. The owner of the car wash claimed the register came up short and told Aidan to leave early. School sent another automated call about unpaid lunches. His mother smiled through breakfast and coughed into her sleeve when she thought he was not looking. The doctor's voice from yesterday still echoed in his head, careful and tired, explaining options that all sounded like time running out. So when Luis, a delivery guy who knew too much about too many people, offered cash to carry a package to a restaurant with no sign, Aidan said yes. He always said yes. Saying no was a luxury. Now the job was done. The money was in his bag. And the night was pressing in. Aidan turned down the alley because he always did. It cut minutes off the walk, and minutes mattered when you lived with someone whose breathing sometimes stopped in the middle of the night. The alley smelled like rain-soaked trash and old oil. A rat skittered away. Aidan adjusted his grip on the backpack strap and moved faster. That was when he heard breathing that did not belong to him. It came from ahead. Wet. Ragged. Wrong. Aidan slowed despite himself. Every instinct screamed to turn around, but the footsteps behind him were closer now. He edged forward, heart pounding, until the shadows opened up. 3 men stood in the alley. Their faces were covered. Their posture was not hurried. They were finishing something. A 4th man lay on the ground. It took a second for Aidan's brain to catch up to what his eyes were seeing. Blood soaked the man's coat. One of the masked figures dragged him by the collar like dead weight. Another held a gun, casual, pointed downward. This was not a crisis yet, his mind insisted. He could step back. He could disappear. Glass cracked under his shoe. The man with the gun looked up. Everything after that happened faster than thought. The gun lifted. Aidan moved. Not bravely. Not heroically. He moved because his body refused to freeze. He slammed into the shooter, shoulder first. The gun went off, the sound deafening in the narrow space, sparks exploding off brick. Someone shouted his surprise into a curse. Aidan did not stop. He stumbled sideways, palms slapping against the hood of a parked police car that looked abandoned and wrong in that alley. His hand hit the siren switch. The sound tore the night open. Red and blue light flooded the alley. The masked men scattered instantly, vanishing into branching streets with practiced speed. In seconds, they were gone. Aidan stood there shaking, ears ringing, chest burning. The man on the ground was still alive. Their eyes met. Sharp eyes. Intelligent. Angry, even through pain. Aidan backed away, terror finally catching up, then turned and ran. He did not tell anyone. Not the police. Not his mother. He washed the blood off his shoes and lay awake listening to her breathe. Every siren outside made his muscles lock. The knock came the next evening. 2 men waited in the hallway. Suits. Calm. Smiles that did not belong in that building. They knew his name. They knew his mother's name. They knew about the alley. Aidan went with them. The restaurant had no windows you could see through and no sign you could read. Inside, everything was quiet in a way that felt deliberate. Vincent Moretti sat at a corner table, bandaged, composed, watching Aidan like he was solving a puzzle. "You ran," Moretti said. Aiden nodded. What do you want? Aiden had rehearsed this. Money. Rent. Food. Safety. But when he opened his mouth, he told the truth. About his mother. About the surgery. About the clock ticking in the doctor's voice. Moretti listened without interrupting. When Aiden finished, the man leaned back and exhaled slowly. Done, he said. The surgery happened faster than hope allowed. Bills vanished. Doctors smiled. His mother came home stronger, alive in a way she had not been for months. And Aiden's problems multiplied. People watched him now. Not openly. Just enough to be noticed. A skinny older kid named Marcus started walking him home. Teachers asked questions. Luis disappeared. The car wash owner suddenly paid on time. One afternoon behind the school gym, two boys cornered him. They wanted money. Names. Answers. Aiden fought back badly but fiercely. Marcus joined in. Blood hit concrete. The boys retreated, angry and confused. Aiden had achieved something. That night Marcus handed him an old phone. If it rings, Marcus said, answer. Aiden lay awake staring at the ceiling, understanding the turn too late. His mother was alive. And he was no longer free. The phone rang for the first time at 3 minutes past midnight. Aiden had been awake already, listening to the radiator knock like it was trying to send a message through the walls. When the vibration buzzed against the cheap nightstand, his stomach tightened before his hand even moved. He stared at the dark screen, willing it to stop, counting the seconds between pulses. It did not stop. He answered. A man's voice said his name calmly, like they were picking up a conversation that had started years ago instead of seconds earlier. The voice told him to get dressed and go downstairs. No threats. No explanations. Just expectation. Aiden did not wake his mother. He moved quietly, pulling on a hoodie, sliding his feet into worn sneakers. Outside, the night air was sharp and smelled like rain. A black sedan idled at the curb. Marcus leaned against it, chewing gum, eyes alert. You okay? Marcus asked, like this was a normal question. Aiden nodded because that was easier than thinking. They drove without music. Without conversation. The city slid by in fragments of light and shadow. Aiden tried to memorize streets, turns, landmarks, but it blurred together. He realized with a cold clarity that even if he wanted to run, he would not know where to go. The building they stopped at looked empty. Office space, maybe, before someone decided it was not worth renting. Inside, the lights were on. Vincent Moretti waited in a chair, no table this time, no pretense of comfort. You did well, Moretti said. Aiden did not answer. Compliments felt dangerous now. You've noticed the pressure, Moretti continued. That's good. Awareness keeps people alive. Aiden swallowed. I did not ask for this. No, Moretti agreed. You did not. Neither did I, once. Moretti gestured, and a man stepped forward holding a folder. Inside were photographs. The alley. The police car. Aiden's apartment building. His school. This is the world you stepped into, Moretti said. You do not get to step out unchanged. Aiden felt anger rise, hot and sharp. You said you'd help. I did help, Moretti said gently. Your mother is alive. That matters. The anger had nowhere to go. It collapsed inward. You not working for me, Moretti went on. You learning. Watching. Listening. That's all. For now. For now sat between them like a threat. After that night, the city changed shape around Aiden. Doors opened where they had not before. He was moved to a better school across town, the explanation vague and unquestioned. Teachers treated him carefully. Too carefully. Marcus became permanent. Sometimes there were others. The pressure doubled. A man was found dead in a river. A building burned down 3 blocks from his home. His mother asked questions he could not answer. He started lying without thinking about it, the words smooth and easy in his mouth. Then he made his first real mistake. He skipped answering the phone once. He was at the hospital with his mother, listening to a nurse explain follow-up appointments, when the vibration buzzed. He silenced it. He told himself it could wait. It could not. That night, someone broke into their apartment. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was damaged. But the front door was left open, and the light in his mother's room was on when they came home. The message was clear. The second fight came soon after. It happened in a parking garage beneath a closed mall. Concrete pillars. Flickering lights. The smell of oil and old rain. Aiden did not know why he was there until a man stepped out from behind a car holding a knife like he knew how to use it. Aiden froze for half a second too long. The blade caught his arm, shallow but burning. He stumbled back, slipped, hit the ground hard. The man advanced, expression empty, methodical. Then Marcus was there, fast and brutal. He slammed the attacker into a pillar, again and again, until the knife clattered to the ground and something in the man's arm broke with a sound Aiden would remember forever. Afterward, Aiden threw up behind a dumpster. That was the night he understood that survival was not the same as safety. Vincent Moretti visited him in person a week later. Sat across from him in a quiet diner that smelled like coffee and bleach. "You're standing in the wrong place," Moretti said. Aiden looked up. "What does that mean?" "It means you're visible," Moretti said. "And visibility attracts teeth." "What do you want from me?" Aiden asked, his voice breaking despite himself. Moretti studied him for a long time. "I want you to outlive me." That was the second turn of the knife. Aiden realized then that this was not about protection. It was not about repayment. It was about shaping. About turning a boy who could move unnoticed into someone who could survive storms meant for grown men. The city closed in tighter after that. There were deadlines now. Expectations. Tests disguised as errands. He learned routes. Codes. Faces. He learned how quickly people could disappear and how slowly consequences arrived. And somewhere beneath the fear, beneath the anger, a plan began to form. Because Aiden Collins was still 12 years old. And he was already running out of time. Time stopped behaving like time. It compressed. Days folded into each other until Aiden could no longer tell whether something had happened yesterday or 3 weeks ago. School became background noise, a place he occupied physically but not mentally. He learned how to look present while listening for other things. Footsteps behind him. A car idling too long. The tone of a voice on the phone. He was given rules, never written down, never said all at once. Do not talk about what you see. Do not ask why you're somewhere. Do not answer questions unless you know who's asking them. Always answer the phone. The city rewarded him for learning fast. Problems smoothed themselves out before they became loud. Teachers stopped calling. His mother's medication arrived on time every month without fail. When the landlord raised the rent, it came back down again 2 days later with an apology. None of it felt like kindness. Marcus trained him without calling it training. Long walks that doubled back on themselves. Games that involved remembering faces and license plates. Conversations where Marcus asked him what he noticed, then corrected him quietly when he missed something important. "You do not survive by being tough," Marcus said once, leaning against a chain-link fence while traffic roared nearby. You survive by knowing where not to stand. Aiden absorbed that lesson deeply. The deadline came disguised as an opportunity. Moretti summoned him to the restaurant again, the same one without a sign, the same corner table. Moretti looked older now. Thinner. His hands shook slightly when he lifted his glass. I need you to listen, Moretti said. Not react. Not decide. Just listen. Aiden nodded. There's a leak, Moretti continued. Someone close. Someone patient. Aiden felt the air shift. You do not find leaks by squeezing, Moretti said. You find them by letting pressure build. The task was simple on its face. Attend. Observe. Remember. Aiden was placed into rooms where deals were discussed just loudly enough for him to hear. Names surfaced. Dates. Locations. He did not write anything down. He did not have to. Fear sharpened memory. The pressure doubled again. The surprises started small. A door slamming shut behind him when it should not have. A car that followed for 3 blocks, disappeared, then reappeared. A dog that barked every night suddenly going quiet forever. One evening, walking home, Aiden noticed Marcus was not there. That absence screamed louder than sirens. He slowed. Counted steps. Reflected storefront glass showed no one close behind. His phone vibrated once. A single word appeared on the screen. Run. He did not ask where Marcus was. He ran. The alley swallowed him again, familiar and hostile. Footsteps chased him this time. Real ones. Angry ones. Aiden ducked through a broken gate, scraped his arm climbing a fence, burst into a yard he did not recognize. A man lunged out of the dark. The third fight was messy and close. No weapons. Just hands, breath, panic. The man was older, stronger, but slower. Aiden bit, kicked, clawed, using everything Marcus had drilled into him without ever calling it that. He broke free, sprinted until his lungs burned, did not stop until he collapsed behind a dumpster shaking. Marcus was found the next day. Alive. Barely. Hospital room. Tubes. Bruises blooming like ink under his skin. Marcus smiled when he saw Aiden. You did good, he whispered. That smile broke something in Aiden. The next turn came quietly, which made it worse. The leak was not external. It was intentional. Aiden pieced it together in fragments. Overheard arguments. A shift in tone. Moretti's people tightening ranks instead of opening them. And finally, a conversation he was not meant to hear, drifting through a cracked door. Moretti was not being betrayed. He was preparing an ending. The realization hit Aiden like cold water. The pressure, the grooming, the education, it was not about succession. It was about control of the narrative. About choosing who survived the collapse and who went down with the structure. And Aiden understood his role. He was not meant to inherit. He was meant to carry the truth somewhere it could not be ignored. Hope flared painfully bright. He started planning immediately. He memorized routes out of buildings. Timetables. Names. He hid information inside homework, inside meaningless notebooks, inside his own head. He learned which phones were safe and which ones listened back. For the first time since the alley, he felt something close to purpose. Then the last door closed. His mother was taken. Not violently. Not publicly. A nurse called. Said there had been a complication. Said she was being transferred. Would not say where. The phone rang seconds later. Moretti's voice was tired. This is the part where you choose, he said. Aiden stood in their apartment, staring at his mother's empty bed, understanding with brutal clarity that everything he needed to win was already in his hands. And that using it would cost him the only thing he had ever been trying to protect. For the first time, Aidan Collins saw no way out. And the city waited to see which part of him would break first. The apartment felt wrong without his mother's breathing. Aidan stood in the doorway of her room, staring at the neatly made bed, the glass of water still on the nightstand where she had left it that morning. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and laundry soap. Ordinary. Too ordinary for what had just been taken out of it. He did not cry. Not yet. Crying required certainty, and right now everything was suspended, balanced on a wire pulled tight across the city. The phone rang again. "Where is she?" Aidan asked as soon as he answered. Moretti did not pretend this time. "Safe," he said. "For now." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you get," Moretti replied. "You've been listening well. Now it's time to act." Aidan closed his eyes. He thought of Marcus in the hospital bed. Of the alley. Of the first time he had learned that saving someone could chain you to them forever. "What do you want?" he asked. "To finish something," Moretti said. "And to do it clean." The plan was already in motion. Aidan realized that as soon as he heard the details. He was not being invited to help design it. He was being positioned inside it, like a piece that only fit one way. There would be a meeting. One last gathering of people who believed they were untouchable. Names Aidan had heard whispered for months would be in the same room. Evidence would be present. Enough to burn everything down. You'll be there," Moretti said. "You'll see it all. And then you'll walk away." "And my mother?" Aidan asked. A pause. "Fractional. Heavy." "That depends on what you do after," Moretti said. The line went dead. Aidan sat on the floor with his back against the wall until the sun came up. He did not sleep. He did not move. He replayed everything he had learned, every rule, every lesson Marcus had drilled into him. He understood then what Moretti had meant all along. Outliving him was never about survival. It was about aftermath. The meeting took place in a renovated warehouse near the river. Clean lines. Bright lights. The kind of place that pretended to be modern while hiding rot in its foundations. Aidan arrived with an escort he did not recognize. Marcus was not there. Inside, the room hummed with quiet confidence. Men shook hands. Smiled. Laughed softly. They spoke in euphemisms and percentages and timelines. Aidan listened. He saw everything. The documents were real. So were the recordings. The routes. The payments. The bodies implied but never named. It was enough to end careers, lives, entire structures. Moretti sat at the head of the table, silent, watching the room like a man memorizing a painting he would never see again. At some point, Moretti's eyes met Aidan's. There was no apology in them. No regret. Only certainty. That was when Aidan made his choice. He did not leave when he was supposed to. He slipped away earlier, through a side corridor he had memorized weeks ago. The phone in his pocket vibrated once. A message appeared, from a number he had never saved but knew by heart. Now. Aidan ran. The escape was not dramatic. No explosions. No shouting. Just locked doors opening because he knew which ones were not really locked. Cameras pointed the wrong way because he had noticed them months ago. A security guard who hesitated because Aidan looked too young to be where he was. Outside, the air smelled like rain and river water. A black SUV waited at the curb. This was the last test. Aidan walked past it. He crossed the street. Ducking between buildings, he moved fast and low, exactly the way Marcus had taught him. Sirens rose behind him, distant at first, then multiplying. The city woke up angry. He reached the payphone under the L tracks just as his legs began to shake. He dialed the number he had never been supposed to know. The voice on the other end was calm. Federal. Real. Aiden talked until his throat burned. He gave names. Places. Times. He gave them the skeleton key to a kingdom built on silence. When he hung up, he expected relief. What he felt instead was grief. They found his mother hours later. Alive. Sedated. Held in a private clinic under an assumed name. She never knew how close she had come to disappearing forever. Aiden made sure of that. Vincent Moretti died in custody 3 days later. The official story said heart failure. The unofficial one said he smiled when it happened. Years later, people would argue about who really destroyed the empire. Law enforcement. Internal betrayal. Market forces. No one mentioned the boy. Aiden grew up somewhere quieter. A different name. A different life. He worked hard. He slept poorly. Some nights, he dreamed of alleys and sirens and a man with sharp eyes bleeding on concrete. He had won. The city was safer. The machine was broken. But sometimes, standing in a grocery store aisle or waiting for a bus, Aiden would feel the weight of that first choice settle back onto his shoulders. He had saved his mother. He had done exactly what Vincent Moretti wanted. And that was the part no one would ever punish him for. Years later, Aiden learned that endings were a lie people told themselves so they could sleep. He was 27 when he first saw Vincent Moretti again. Not the man, obviously. The man was ashes and footnotes and sealed files. But Aiden had learned that power did not die cleanly. It leaked. It hid in margins. He was standing in line at a coffee shop in a city that had nothing to do with Chicago, using a name that fit him well enough to pass, when the television above the counter caught his eye. The sound was off, but the image was sharp, a congressional hearing, cameras flashing, a familiar face testifying under oath. Marcus. Older. Thinner. Scarred in ways that did not show unless you knew where to look. But unmistakable. Aiden did not breathe until the segment cut away. That night, he broke his own rules and searched. Carefully. Slowly. He followed trails the way he'd been taught, even though he had not needed those skills in years. Marcus had survived. More than that, he had adapted. Private security consultant. Government contracts. A man who understood both sides of the line and sold that understanding at a premium. Aiden felt something twist in his chest that was not relief. They met 3 weeks later in a park that smelled like cut grass and exhaust. Marcus looked at him for a long time before speaking. "You taller," Marcus said. "You alive," Aiden replied. They sat on opposite ends of a bench like strangers sharing public space. The conversation avoided names at first. Avoided Chicago. Avoided Moretti. But avoidance was another kind of confession. "It worked," Aiden said finally. Marcus nodded. Better than he planned. That made Aiden look at him. "You think this ended him?" Marcus continued. He wanted the empire gone. Too many moving parts. Too many people who forgot why fear worked. He needed a collapse big enough to erase everyone who thought they could replace him. Aiden's mouth felt dry. "You knew." "I suspected," Marcus said. Too late to stop it. Too early to run. They sat with that. "Why are you still involved?" Aiden asked. Marcus smiled without humor. "Because someone has to make sure the next one does not do it the same way." Aiden understood then what the last lesson had been. Moretti had not just built a criminal empire. He had built a philosophy. One that survived him because it was efficient, because it worked, because it convinced people they were choosing freely even when every option had been arranged in advance. Aiden stood. "I do not do that anymore," he said. Marcus did not try to stop him. "I know." They never met again. Aiden's mother lived a long life. She never learned the full truth. She did not need to. She believed her son had been lucky. That kindness existed. That sometimes the world bent instead of breaking. Aiden let her believe it. On the anniversary of the alley, every year without fail, Aiden woke before dawn. He stood at a window, no matter where he lived, and listened to the city breathe. He counted steps in his head. He remembered the weight of a backpack and the sound of a siren cutting through night. He had become exactly what the city had trained him to be. Someone who noticed. Someone who survived. Someone who understood that saving a life could be the most dangerous thing you ever did. And somewhere, in systems and structures that no one could fully see, Vincent Moretti's final lesson continued to do its work. Not as a man, but as a design. Aiden thought that understanding the design would free him from it. He was wrong. The call came on a morning that was too normal to be trusted. His mother had been gone for 2 years by then. Not taken. Not stolen. Just finished. The kind of death that does not demand explanations. Aiden had stood by the grave feeling empty in a way that felt earned, like exhaustion after a long run. The phone number was blocked. He almost did not answer. Old instincts stirred, quiet but alert. He answered anyway. "You've been very careful," a woman's voice said. Professional. Controlled. American in the way that erased region. That's why this call is happening now and not earlier. Aiden closed his eyes. "I do not know you," he said. "That's correct," she replied. "But you know what you are." Silence stretched. Aiden felt something click into place, a final piece he had not wanted to find. "We have a problem," the woman continued. "A structure. A resilient one. It does not answer to arrests or deaths. It answers to people who understand pressure." Aiden laughed once, sharp and humorless. "I am done." "You said that before," the woman said gently. "When you were 12. The words landed with surgical precision. "You did not dismantle the system," she went on. "You proved it could be reset. Cleaner. Quieter. That's what makes you valuable." "I was a child," Aiden said. "You were a prototype." The line went quiet. Aiden stared at his reflection in the darkened window. He looked ordinary. Tired. Safe. "Say no," the woman said. "And this ends here. Say yes, and you help shape what comes next. Either way, the design continues." Aiden understood then what Vincent Moretti had truly left behind. Not an empire. Not enemies. A method for turning necessity into consent. He did not answer immediately. Outside, the city moved. Buses hissed. Someone argued on a corner. A siren wailed far away, distant enough to be almost nostalgic. Aiden Collins, who had once saved a man in an alley without thinking, weighed a choice he had already been trained to make. He smiled, just a little. "Send me the details," he said. The woman exhaled, satisfied. The call ended. And somewhere, very far from that quiet room, the design adjusted itself once more. Aiden did not receive the details right away. That, more than anything, told him the truth. People who rushed wanted obedience. People who waited wanted alignment. 3 days passed. Then 4. He went to work. He bought groceries. He slept poorly and dreamed in fragments. Alleys without exits. Phones ringing underwater. His mother calling his name from a room that did not exist anymore. On the 5th day, an envelope appeared in his mailbox. No stamp. No return address. Just his real name, written carefully, like it mattered. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a key card. The paper held one sentence. You already know where to start. Aiden sat at his kitchen table for a long time. He did not touch the card. He did not need to. There were only so many beginnings that made sense. He went back to Chicago. The South Side had not changed as much as people liked to pretend. New paint. New businesses. Same shadows. Different owners. Aiden walked streets his body remembered even when his mind pretended not to. He counted steps. He noticed who noticed him. The alley was still there. Narrow. Filthy. Unimportant. Someone had painted over the brick, but the geometry was the same. This was where a design had first revealed itself to him, disguised as chaos. Aiden stood there at dusk, listening. You late, a voice said behind him. He did not turn. Marcus stepped into view, older again, heavier in the shoulders, eyes sharp as ever. So are you, Aiden replied. Marcus smiled faintly. I wondered when they'd come for you. They did not come, Aiden said. They invited. That's worse, Marcus said. They leaned against opposite walls of the alley like mirrors refusing to line up. For a moment, neither spoke. You know what they want, Marcus said finally. They want what always works, Aiden replied. Someone who looks like a solution instead of a threat. Marcus nodded. And what do you want? Aiden thought of his mother. Of the surgery. Of the siren. Of Vincent Moretti watching him like a man planting a tree whose shade he'd never sit in. I want it to end, Aiden said. Marcus laughed quietly. It does not. I know, Aiden said. But it can change. Marcus studied him, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone. New. Clean. Unmarked. They'll be listening, Marcus said. I am counting on it, Aiden replied. Aiden took the phone. He walked out of the alley alone. The next 6 months were a controlled burn. Networks shifted. Operations collapsed without arrests. Money flowed into places it could not be reclaimed from. People at the top found themselves exposed not by evidence but by necessity, forced to sacrifice allies to protect themselves, until there was no one left to stand with. The design worked. Just not the way it was supposed to. When the woman called again, her voice was no longer calm. You exceeded your mandate, she said. I fulfilled it, Aiden replied. You wanted pressure applied by someone who understood the system. I applied it. You destabilized, yes, Aiden said. Permanently. Silence. You used us, she said. Aiden smiled, though she could not see it. You trained me to. The call ended without a goodbye. Aiden left Chicago for the last time that night. Years later, analysts would argue about what happened. About why certain structures failed all at once. About how a design that had survived decades suddenly ate itself. No one would trace it back to a 12-year-old boy in an alley. Aiden lived quietly. Smaller cities. Smaller footprints. He never carried a backpack that was not his again. He never answered a phone he did not recognize. Sometimes, in the early hours before dawn, he would wake and listen to the city breathe, wherever he was. He would count steps he did not need to take anymore. Vincent Moretti had been wrong about one thing. Outliving the design was not the goal. Understanding it was. And that was how Aiden Collins finally stepped out of its shadow, not by breaking it, but by refusing to carry it forward. Aiden thought the silence meant it was over. That was his last mistake. It happened in a place so ordinary it almost made him laugh afterward. A grocery store. Fluorescent lights. A broken freezer humming too loud. He was standing in line, holding a basket with bread and coffee, when the child in front of him dropped a toy. Aiden bent down to pick it up at the same moment a familiar pressure slid into the back of his skull. Awareness. Old. Sharp. Someone was watching him the way he used to watch rooms. He straightened slowly. Reflections in the freezer glass gave him fragments, a man pretending to check his phone, a woman too still by the magazines, the exit blocked by coincidence. The design had not died. It had learned. Aiden paid, walked out, did not run. Running was for panic, and panic gave the wrong people leverage. Outside, the air was cold and clean. He made it half a block before a voice said his name. Not his real one. The last one he'd de-used. You did something impressive, the man said, falling into step beside him. Middle-aged. Forgettable. Perfect. You burned the map. That does not happen often. Aiden kept walking. You late. The man smiled. We wanted to be sure. Of what? That you were not replacing it. They reached an intersection. Traffic lights changed. Cars moved. Life continued with infuriating indifference. I am not interested, Aiden said. We know, the man replied. That's why we here. They stopped. The woman from the phone call stepped out of a parked car. Same voice. Same calm. You misunderstood your role, she said. You think refusal is outside the system. It is not. It's just another variable. Aiden finally looked at her. Really looked. Then you already lost, he said. She tilted her head. Explain. You came in person, Aiden said. You showed your edges. The man frowned. Just a fraction. Aiden continued, quietly now. If this still worked the way you think, I'd be gone already. Or I'd be agreeing. You would not be standing here asking. Silence stretched. Designs fail, Aiden said. Not all at once. Piece by piece. First they stop being invisible. The woman studied him. For the first time, something like uncertainty crossed her face. What happens now? She asked. Aiden shrugged. Now you decide if you walk away. And if we do not? Aiden smiled. It was not kind. Then you confirm what I already told people like you, he said. That the system only survives as long as someone is willing to carry it. He stepped back into the crosswalk as the light changed. Cars honked. Someone shouted. The moment broke. When Aiden reached the other side, no one followed. He did not look back. That night, he packed light. Always light. He left the city before dawn, not because he was afraid, but because staying no longer proved anything. He took a bus, then another, then walked until the air smelled unfamiliar. Years passed. The world did not become better. It became noisier. Systems rose and fell. People argued about causes and solutions and never once noticed the quiet absence of certain designs. Aiden lived small. He fixed things. Taught classes no one advertised. Helped people notice where not to stand. On rare nights, when sirens cut the dark just right, he remembered the alley. The blood. The choice made without thinking that had shaped everything. He understood now what the real cost had been. Not innocence. Direction. Saving Vincent Moretti had not ruined his life. It had given it a vector. And in the end, Aiden Collins did not defeat the system, did not inherit it, did not burn it down. He did something far more dangerous. He walked away knowing exactly how it worked. And he left it without him.